Hello everyone, how are you all? Hope you all are doing well. So we would be doing what? Marathon revision of reverse charge chapter. Okay, here reverse charge mechanism chapter we are going to discuss. So first of all, under reverse charge, whose responsibility is to pay tax to the government? The recipient. The recipient is responsible to pay tax to the government under reverse charge. Is it on all goods and services? No, it is on specified goods, specified services. It is on specified goods, specified services. So, in case of forward charge, what happens generally? The normal charge, forward charge, supplier is required to pay to the government. The supplier is required to pay to the government the taxes. However, in case of reverse charge, the responsibility is casted on the recipient to pay tax to the government. The responsibility is casted on the recipient to pay tax to the government. Now, 9.3 is regarding what? Reverse charge. Reverse charge again in case of notified goods, notified services. In case of notified goods, notified services, the responsibility to pay tax to the government is casted on the recipient by 9.3. And then what does 9.4 says? If you are an unregistered person, okay, for example, you are class of registered person, you are purchasing from an unregistered person what? Specified goods, specified services. Specified goods, specified services. In that case, the responsibility is on class of registered person to pay tax to the government, okay. So you are what? For example, I'll draw this. One second. You are a class of registered person. You have purchased from an unregistered person what? Specified category of goods or services. In this case, whose responsibility is to pay tax to the government? The class of registered person. The class of registered person has to pay tax to the government. Okay. Now, let us start with what? Services under RCM. Services under RCM. Okay. So let us start one service at a time. First, we will start with GTA service. What happens in case of GTA service? So this is the what combination? This chart is a combination of exemption plus RCM entry. In exam, one of the situation will come. So if you are doing this chart at the exam time, definitely will be able to answer during the exam time, whatever the case study comes. So for example, here first GST on GTA service. What you have to see in this? Who is the recipient? Who is the recipient? Okay. So if the recipient is Department of Central Government, State Government, Union Territory, Local Authority, Governmental Authority who has taken registration for tax deduction. Who is the recipient? Recipient is the Department of Central Government, State Government, Union Territory, Local Authority, Governmental Authority who has taken registration for tax deduction. In this case, GST will be exempt. Okay. So what you have to see? Who is the recipient? If the recipient is Department of Central Government, State Government, Union Territory, Local Authority who has taken GST registration for tax deduction purpose, then in that case GST will be exempt. But if the recipient is other than 7 specified category of person, who is the recipient? Recipient is 7 other than 7 specified category of person. For example, any unregistered individual. In that case GST will be exempt. Again GST will be exempt. No question of reverse charge, forward charge. Since GST is exempt, no question of reverse charge, forward charge. Okay. Now, but if recipient is one of the 7 specified category of person, then GST is chargeable, boss. Now, who will discharge the GST liability? So, GTA service supplier has the choice. What choice he has? He has the choice that can take registration under GST. And opt to pay tax GST under forward charge mechanism. So he can take registration under GST. And he can opt to pay tax under forward charge mechanism. Applicable rate of GST would be what? Applicable rate, there are 2 rates. One is 5%, one is 12%. When is 5% applicable? When you are not taking input tax credit of inputs, input services and capital goods. If you are not taking input tax credit of inputs, capital goods and here input services, then on output you can discharge 5%, not a problem. not a problem. But if one inputs, but if you are taking ITC on input services and capital goods, in that case output rate would be 12%. In that case output rate would be 12%. Okay, so if the GTS service supplier, chooses, what choice he has, the service supplier has the choice that he can take registration and he can opt to pay GST and or forward charge. He can take registration and he can opt to pay tax and a forward charge, and in that case there are two rates, 5% without ITC, 12% with ITC. 12% with ITC. Otherwise, recipient will be liable to pay GST under RCM and applicable rate of GST will be 5%. Okay. Otherwise, what recipient will be liable to pay tax GST under RCM, and what is the applicable rate of GST? Applicable rate of GST is 5%. Applicable rate of GST is 5%. Okay. So, recipient will be liable to pay GST under RCM and applicable rate would be 5%. Now, so this is what in case of GTA service. In the case of GTA service, what you have to say, recipient is Department of Central Government, State Government, Union Territory, Local Authority who has taken registration for this tax deduction purpose. GST is exempt. Other than 7 specified category of person, GST is exempt. If 7 specified category of person, now who are 7 specified category of person? You remember what we have seen in the class? Factory, society, cooperative society, person registered under GST, body, corporate, partnership, firm, casual taxable person. All these. So, if you are a factory, society, cooperative society, GST registered person, body, corporate, partnership firm or casual taxable person, if you are any of these, then in that case GST is chargeable. And then there is a choice. GTA supplier can pay under forward charge. He can take registration and he can pay under forward charge. The applicable rate would be 5% and 12% as the case may be. Otherwise, if he is not taking registration or he is not opting to pay GST under this forward charge, in that case recipient will pay. And the applicable rate of GST would be 5% under RCM. 5% under RCM. So, I hope it is clear, the GTA service. The second one. What is in this second one? We'll see in case of individual advocate. See in now in reverse charge chapter, what you have to remember, you remember what I have told you in class, we have to remember only 3 things. Who is the supplier, who is the recipient and what service it is. If it is falling in this, it is chargeable under reverse charge, otherwise not. Only these 3 things should fit properly. So, if the supplier is individual advocate, including senior advocate or a firm of advocate, and they are providing services to business entity located in taxable territory, the business entity located in taxable territory will be liable to pay GST, But I'll open the main book of the class in which the diagrams are given. We'll quickly go through the diagrams of exemption plus this entry. Remember these diagrams we have seen in case of arbitral tribunal, in case of partnership firm and all those things. So, what is it? So, if first we'll talk about legal services. If you are a partnership firm of advocate or an individual advocate other than senior advocate. So, you are a partnership firm of advocate or individual advocate. You are a partnership firm of advocate or individual advocate other than a senior advocate. In that case, you are providing services to an advocate or partnership firm of advocate. In that case, GST is exempt. So, you are a partnership firm of advocate or individual advocate providing services to an advocate or partnership firm of advocate. GST is exempt. One advocate providing legal services to another advocate. One partnership firm of advocate providing legal services to another partnership firm of advocate or advocate. GST is exempt, boss. GST is exempt. GST is not chargeable. However, if you are providing it to other than business entity, then also GST is exempt. GST is exempt to an individual person you are providing. GST is exempt. Who is providing? Either the partnership firm of advocate or individual advocate we are talking here about. So, yes, GST is exempt. If you are providing it to central government, state government, union territory, local authority, GST is exempt. So, this all, how, from where I am saying it is exempt? From the exemption entry. We have studied in the exemption entry, it is exempt. Now, if you are providing it to the business entity, so what you have to see? You have to see the aggregate turnover of the business entity. The aggregate turnover of the business entity is up to the threshold limit of registration, then it is exempt. Otherwise it is chargeable, and if it is chargeable, it is taxable under RCM. It is taxable under RCM. Okay, so partnership firm of advocate or individual advocate other than a senior advocate is providing service to a business entity. The business entity's aggregate turnover is above threshold limit. In that case, it is taxable under RCM basis. In that case, it is taxable under RCM basis. I hope it is clear. Okay. Now, next. Legal services by senior advocate. Who is providing legal services? Senior advocate to the following person. So again, other than business entity, exempt. Central government, state government, union territory, local authority, exempt. To a business entity, then what you have to see? The business entity's aggregate turnover. The business entity's aggregate turnover is up to threshold limit. It is exempt. It is exempt. But if the business entity's aggregate turnover is above threshold limit, it is taxable. Taxable, if it is taxable, it is taxable under RCM basis. So in this particular case, it would be taxable. And now when senior advocate is providing legal services to advocate or partnership firm of advocate, in that case it is taxable. However, the firm can claim exemption as business entity if they have a turnover up to 20 lakhs, then they can claim an exemption as a business entity. Otherwise, it is taxable. Otherwise, it is taxable. Okay. And the last, arbitral tribunal. Legal services by arbitral tribunal to the following recipient. So in this case, what is the matter? We'll see. Again, very simple. Arbitral tribunal providing services to other than business entity, exempt. To central government, state government, union territory, local authority, exempt. To business entity whose aggregate turnover is up to threshold limit, exempt. To business entity whose aggregate turnover is above threshold limit, then it is taxable, and it is taxable under RCM. Then it is taxable, and it is taxable under RCM. I hope it is clear. Okay. So it is very simple. Now, next. Who is the supplier of service? What service we are talking about? Sponsorship. Next is sponsorship service. Sponsorship service. Who is providing? Anyone. Any person can provide. Any person can provide. Okay. To whom they are providing? To any body, corporate, partnership firm located in taxable territory. To whom they are providing? Body, corporate, partnership firm located in taxable territory. In that case, body, corporate, partnership firm located in taxable territory is required to pay tax under RCM. Only body, corporate or partnership firm. Okay. So, if they are providing services to any individual, then reverse charge is not applicable. Who is the supplier of service? Any person. Who is the recipient of service? Body, corporate or partnership firm. Which service we are talking about? Sponsorship. So, in that case, tax will be discharged under reverse charge basis by the body, corporate or the partnership firm located in taxable territory. Located in taxable territory. I hope it is clear. Next. Who is the supplier of service? Central government, state government, union territory, local authority. Who is the supplier of service? Central government, state government, union territory, local authority. Who is the recipient? Business entity located in taxable territory. Business entity located in taxable territory. So the supplier is central government, state government, union territory, local authority, governments. In short, to a business entity would be discharging tax under reverse charge. Tax under reverse charge. However, what is written? The service supplied by the government to business entity excluding means these all are excluded. If it is excluded from the reverse charge entry, the last three will say, if it is excluded from the reverse charge entry, that means under forward charge. It will be chargeable under forward charge. And for this first point, renting of immovable property, there is a separate entry 5A. Okay, it has been excluded from this entry. It has given in 5A, the excluding renting of immovable property. Then these three services are excluded. These three services are excluded. Which three services? Service by Department of Post and Ministry of Railways, Indian Railways. Service by Department of Post and Ministry of Railways, Indian Railways. Then service in relation to aircraft or vessel inside or outside the presence of the port or airport. Inside or outside the presence of the port or airport. And transportation of goods or passenger. And transportation of goods and passenger. So these three. What? Service by Department of Post and Ministry of Railways, Department of Post and Ministry of Railways, Indian Railways. Then service in relation to aircraft or vessel inside or outside the presence of the port or airport, and then transportation of the goods or passenger. These three services. These three services, it will always be chargeable to tax under forward charge. It will always be chargeable under forward charge. Department of Post, Ministry of Railways, then service in relation to aircraft or vessel inside or outside the presence of the port or airport, and then transportation of goods or passenger. If these services are provided by government, even though they are provided by government, under these services always the tax will be discharged by the government, because it is excluded from the reverse charge entry. Other services, business entity will pay tax under reverse charge. Business entity will pay tax under reverse charge when it is provided by government. So for example, Department of Post is giving the service of what? Speed post. Speed post. So who will pay the tax under this? Department of Post. Okay, even if it is government, it will be payable by the Department of Post. For example, Ministry of Railways, we book railway tickets and all. The tax, they collect tax from us and remit it to the government. So why? Because they are responsible to pay tax to the government. I hope it is clear. Next, 5A entry. Who is the supplier of service? Central government, state government, union territory, local authority. Central government, state government, union territory, local authority. Who is the supplier of service? Who is the recipient of the service? Who is the recipient here? Any person registered under GST. Any person registered under GST is the recipient. So who is the supplier? Central government, state government, union territory, local authority, government, to a person registered, the person who is registered under GST Act. And what is the service? Renting of immovable property. Renting of immovable property. In that case, tax will be discharged by the registered person. Registered person will discharge tax under reverse charge. Okay. Next. Service by way of renting of residential dwelling to a registered person. What is this? Service of renting of residential dwelling. What is that? Residential dwelling. Who is giving? Any person. Who is the recipient? Any registered person. Any registered person. So who will pay the tax under reverse charge? Registered person. So if the residential dwelling is, if residential dwelling is rented to a registered person, who will discharge the tax? Registered person. Registered person. Now this point we'll discuss in detail again in the exemption chapter. This is not required. Next, director of a company. So we'll see it from the main book diagram. Very simplified and very important, undoubtedly, from exam point of view. So in case of director services, what happens? Director is giving service to the company or a body corporate. Director is giving services to the company or the body corporate. So who is the supplier of service? Director of a company or body corporate. Director of a company or body corporate. To whom he is supplying the service? The company or the body corporate. The company or the body corporate. So who is liable to pay tax in this case? The company or body corporate is required to pay tax under reverse charge in this case. Who is the supplier? In this case, who is the supplier of service? Here, the director of a company or a body corporate to whom he is supplying the service, the company or the body corporate. The company or body corporate will be required to pay tax under RCM. Now we'll see in diagram. So what will happen in case of there was a, there are many kind of directors like independent directors, whole time directors and all those. So in all the cases, what will happen, we'll see. So if in case of independent directors who are not employees, independent directors are not employees of the company. So in case of independent directors, it is outside the scope of Schedule 3. See, if it is not employer-employee relationship, then it is outside Schedule 3. Then it is taxable. If it is taxable under reverse charge, and here company or the body corporate will be liable to pay tax. Okay. So it is outside Schedule 3. It is outside Schedule 3 and it is taxable under reverse charge in the hands of company. It is taxable under reverse charge in the hands of company. Okay. But in case of whole-time directors, including managing directors, who may or may not be employees, So what you have to see, what is accounted in the books of accounts and how the tax is deducted. That means TDS is deducted. So in case of whole-time directors, including managing directors, they may or may not be employees of company. So how the TDS is deducted, we have to see. If the TDS is deducted under section 192 under employee service, then in that case the transaction is in the nature of employment service and thus not leviable to GST. In that case, transaction will be in the nature of employment service and will be not leviable to GST. But TDS is deducted under section 194J, that is under professional service category. TDS deducted under 194J under professional service category. Then it is outside Schedule 3. And it is taxable under reverse charge in the hands of the company. Okay, so if something is outside Schedule 3, something is outside Schedule 3, it is taxable. If it is taxable, it is under reverse charge. But if it is under TDS is deducted under Section 192, employee service category, then it is in the nature of employment service, then it is hit by Schedule 3 and not leviable to GST. And not leviable to GST. Okay, then in that case, transaction is in the nature of employment service and not leviable to tax. But if it is a professional service category, okay, if it is a professional service category, in that case it is outside Schedule 3 and it will be taxable under reverse charge in the hands of company. So I hope it is clear. What you have to see in case of director, which director they are giving in the exam. If it is independent director outside Schedule 3, taxable under reverse charge. If it is whole time or managing director, then you have to write both the things. What you have to write? What is how the TDS is deducted. If the TDS is deducted under employee service, then it is in the nature of employment service, not leviable to GST. But if it is deducted under 194J professional services, then it is outside Schedule 3. It is taxable under reverse charge in the hands of the company. In the hands of company. I hope it is clear. Now, again we'll jump to summary book. So now there's one more clarification also in case of director service. What is that clarification? So if director has provided some services in personal capacity like renting of immovable property to company, then in that case tax is not payable under RCM. Tax is not payable under RCM. Under RCM, if he is providing any services in his private capacity, personal capacity like renting of immovable property, in that case tax is not payable under RCM. Now next, service by insurance agent. Who is the supplier of service? Insurance agent. To whom he is supplying the services? A person carrying on insurance business located in taxable territory. So who will pay the tax? Insurance company. So there are thousands and lakhs of insurance agents. They are providing services to insurance companies. So government has put responsibility on insurance companies to pay tax because it is very difficult to locate so many agents. So government has casted responsibility on the insurance company only. So insurance company will discharge GST in that case. Insurance company will discharge GST in this case. Next, service by a recovery agent. Recovery agent is providing service. To whom he is providing the service? He is providing the service to banking company, financial institute, NBFC located in taxable territory. Okay, so here recovery agent is providing services to banking company, financial institute, NBFC located in taxable territory. So who will discharge the tax liability? The banking company, financial institute, NBFC. Banking company, financial institute, NBFC will discharge the tax liability. So recovery agent providing services to banking company, financial institute or NBFC located in taxable territory, the banking company, financial institute, NBFC will pay the tax to the government. Now, in case of music composer, if you are a music composer, you are a photographer, artist, you are providing services to whom? Music company, producer. In that case, who will pay the tax? Music company, producer will pay the tax. Music company, producer will pay the tax in this case. Okay. So, in this case, for example, a music composer, Arjit Singh is composing music for company T series. So who will pay the tax? T series will pay the tax. T series will pay the tax. Now in case of author, previously it was like the publisher will pay the tax under RCM. Now there are two options. What are those options? The two scenarios are there. That in case of author, when the author is providing services to publisher, when the author is providing services to a publisher, in that case it is taxable under RCM basis. It is taxable under RCM basis and publisher is liable to pay tax. Who is liable to pay tax? Publisher is liable to pay tax. So, in case of services by author to publisher, it is taxable under RCM. Publisher is liable to pay tax. Option 2, it is chargeable under forward charge basis and author is liable to pay tax subject to fulfillment of the conditions. So, what are those conditions that we'll see? So, what are the two options? One, taxable under RCM. Under RCM, publisher will pay the tax. But if it is in forward charge, author will pay the tax. What are those conditions? What author can choose to pay under forward charge? If he has taken GST registration and he has filed a declaration. What? He has taken a GST registration. He has taken a registration under the GST Act and he has filed a declaration that he exercises the option to pay GST on the said service under forward charge and he will not withdraw the option within a period of 1 year from the date of exercising the option. He will not withdraw the option from 1 year from the date of exercising the option and he makes a declaration on invoice issued by him in the prescribed form to the publisher. So what is this? He can choose, yes, author can choose to pay tax under forward charge. Author can choose to pay tax under forward charge. If he has chosen to pay tax under forward charge, if he has chosen to pay tax under forward charge, he has to take registration and he has to file a declaration that he exercises the option to pay under the forward charge, and he will not withdraw the said option within a period of what? 1 year from the date of exercising the option. Within a period of 1 year from the date of exercising the option. Okay. So he has to take a registration and he has to make a declaration that he is charging on forward charge. Obviously, in this case, the other party publisher should know that he is charging under forward charge. So he has to make a declaration that he is exercising the option under forward charge and he will not withdraw the option for a period of 1 year from the date of exercising the option, and he has to make invoice declaration on all the invoice issued by him to the publisher. So this is in case of author. So in case of author, in exam, if at all the question comes, you have to write both the possibilities. You have to write both the possibilities. Now, next, if you are a members of overseeing committee, if you are a member of overseeing committee constituted by RBI and you are providing services to RBI, you are providing services to RBI. So who will discharge the tax liability in this case? RBI. You are member of overseeing committee of or constituted by RBI and you are providing services to RBI. RBI will discharge the tax liability. Very simple. Now, if you are an individual DCA, mind my word, individual, not a body, corporate or partnership firm, individual. In this entry, you will fall only if you are an individual DCA other than body, corporate, partnership firm or LLP, clearly written. So, if you are an individual DCA other than body, corporate, partnership firm or LLP and you are providing services, you are providing services to a banking company or NBFC located in taxable territory. You are providing services to banking company or NBFC located in taxable territory. The tax will be discharged by banking company or NBFC located in taxable territory. The tax will be discharged by banking company or NBFC located in taxable territory. Okay. So you are what? Individual DCA other than individual DCA. So in exam, if the question comes, if it is a body corporate DCA, then reverse charge is not applicable. Then forward charge will be applicable. When reverse charge will be applicable? When it is an individual DCA. It is an individual DCA other than body corporate, partnership firm or LLP. Other than body corporate, partnership firm or LLP, and the service is being provided to a banking company or NBFC, services being provided to banking company or NBFC, then the banking company or NBFC will discharge the tax liability. Banking company or NBFC will discharge the tax liability. Next, service provided by business facilitator to the banking company. You are a business facilitator. You are a business facilitator. You are providing service to a banking company located in taxable territory. You are providing services to a banking company located in taxable territory. So the banking company located in taxable territory will be liable to pay tax under RCM. Banking company located in taxable territory will be liable to pay tax under RCM. So business facilitator is providing services to a banking company located in taxable territory. Banking company will be liable to pay tax. Now you are an agent of business correspondent. You are an agent of business correspondent. You are providing services to a business correspondent. So the business correspondent will be paying the tax. Business correspondent will be paying the tax. Next is security services. In case of security services, what we have to see? Who is the supplier? If the supplier is body corporate, it is on a forward charge. See, we will see the entry first. If the supplier is any person other than body corporate, if the supplier is any person other than body corporate and the recipient is a registered person, in that case registered person will pay the tax under RCM. Registered person will pay tax under RCM. Now we'll see there are some exceptions and all. So we'll see it from a chart. So in case of security service, what you have to see? Who is the supplier? Supplier is body corporate. Oh, in that case it is under forward charge. Supplier is body corporate, in that case it is under forward charge. Any person other than body corporate, if the supplier is any person other than body corporate, then what we have to see? Who is the recipient? If the recipient is registered person other than composition dealer, then only reverse charge. If it is composition dealer recipient, then it is under forward charge. And if the recipient is central government, state government, union territory, local authority, who has taken registration for TDS deduction, then also it is under forward charge. Okay. So in these two cases, it will be under forward charge, otherwise reverse charge. So if the supplier is any person other than body corporate, and the recipient is registered person other than composition dealer, then it is under reverse charge. Okay. Now, next we'll see. In case of renting of motor vehicle, Again, there's a diagram. There's only one possibility when it is under reverse charge. So, who is the supplier? Any person other than body corporate. Any person other than body corporate who supply the service to the body corporate and does not issue invoice charging GST at the rate of 12% to the recipient. And recipient is body corporate located in taxable territory. Body corporate located in taxable territory. In that case, it would be under reverse charge. So, very simplified, we'll see any person other than body corporate. So, if it is body corporate, if the supplier is body corporate, then it is always under forward charge. If the supplier is body corporate, then it is always under forward charge. Now what we have to see, we'll see. The person liable to pay GST in case of renting of motor vehicle, there are two rates in case of motor vehicle. There are two rates. One is 5%, one is 12%. So when it is 12%, it is always under forward charge. Because in reverse charge entry it is written, it does not issue invoice at the rate of CGST 6%. Is CGST 6%, SGST 6%, total 12%. Total 12%. So when the GST is payable at 12%, then it is forward charge. Person liable to pay GST is supplier. Person liable to pay GST is supplier. But now when the GST is payable at 5%, when the GST is payable at 5%, when the GST is payable at 5%, then what we have to see, who is the supplier? Again, supplier is other than body corporate, recipient is a body corporate, then reverse charge is applicable. But if the supplier is other than body corporate, recipient is also other than body corporate, then forward charge. Or if the supplier is body corporate, then also forward charge. So in case of reverse charge, only in one possibility in case of renting of motor vehicle, there is a reverse charge. What is that one possibility? When the GST is payable at the rate of 5%, when the GST is payable at the rate of 5%, supplier is other than body corporate, recipient is body corporate, then reverse charge is applicable. Person liable to pay GST is recipient. Person liable to pay GST is recipient. So I hope it is clear. Okay. Now next we'll see. There is one clarification, not very important. So there is one thing in case of renting of motor vehicle designed to carry passenger. So if all those possibilities are there, then in that case renting of motor vehicle RCM is applicable. But transportation of passenger is altogether a different activity and it is not attracted under RCM. Okay. Next, in case of lending of securities, if the securities are lended, in case of lending of securities, who is lending the security? Lender. To whom he is lending? Borrower. So borrower will be liable to pay GST under RCM. So in case of lending of security, lenders lends the securities through an approved intermediary to the borrower. Lender lends the securities through an approved intermediary to the borrower, and who will pay the tax under RCM? Borrower will pay. Borrower will pay the tax under RCM. There's one more point we'll see. The lending fees charged from borrower has the character of consideration and this activity is taxable. Okay, this activity is taxable. Lending fees. Who will pay the tax? Borrower. And the activities of intermediary is also providing this activity. So they are definitely charging some commission or fees for this. Is that taxable? Yes, that is also definitely taxable. So all these we have the reverse charge entries that we have seen are for CGST purpose as well as IGST purpose. That means that are applicable in case of intrastate as well as interstate. In both the cases, the reverse charge entry would be applicable. However, in case of IGST, in case of interstate, there is one more entry that would be applicable. Okay, what is that? Any person, where is the supplier of service? Any person who is located in non-taxable territory. Any person located in non-taxable territory. Supplier is any person located in non-taxable territory. Who is the recipient? Any person located in taxable territory. Any person located in taxable territory other than NTOR. So who will pay the tax? Any person located in taxable territory other than NTOR will be paying the tax. I hope it is clear. Okay, so the last page you can strike out, it is not in your syllabus. And this was the discussion regarding what reverse charge mechanism chapter beta. So we have seen all the services which are liable for GST under reverse charge. Services. Now these are the notified services. Under reverse charge. Notified goods on reverse charge are not part of your syllabus. Notified services are part of your syllabus. So notified services under reverse charge, this all we have seen. And very, very important chapter. In this chapter, many a times a case study will come in your exam, or it will be a part of a big question also. It could be both ways, you know. But if a case studies come, how you have to write the answer in case of case study? Again, you will write facts of the case if time permits only. Otherwise, you can easily skip facts of the case. You have to write legal provisions first, then discussion and analysis, and then the conclusion. In these three parts, you have to write any answer, okay? And conclusion would be one-liner. In legal provision, you have to write the provision. In discussion and analysis part, you have to relate the provision with the case study given, and the conclusion would be one-liner. Conclusion would be one-liner, okay? So, I hope this discussion is definitely going to help you, and we'll stop our discussion over here. Thank you. Thank you for now. And if you don't have a summary book, download it from a Telegram group or from my website icalic.com. Thank you, beta. Thank you for now.